I think I can flip through with that.
This.
Okay.
This Becky Gardner house. Okay, how about now? Sorry about that. We just barely getting started anyway because we were having some fun technical challenges.
No worries.
I'm sorry, what?
Point the mic.
No worries. We can hear you now.
Great. I'm going to share screen, but I'm also going to see, well, you don't want to do that. See if we want to take an opportunity. I would like to let some guests that we have today introduce themselves. We're going to have some additional conversation. So if everyone would online, if we could go around, maybe Chris, you start and call out someone else online and do introductions. And then we will introduce ourselves in the room and let our guests introduce themselves just for the benefit of today's conversation, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Chris Tilden. I work at a research center affiliated with the University of Kansas and am also involved in a number of community organizations working on improving conditions for people on bikes and people who are walking and generally people in the community. Local Lawrence, Friends of Lawrence Area Trails, among others. And I will turn it over to Vicki.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Colley-Akers. I'm Director of Policy and Planning at Lawrence Douglas County Public Health. I'm also a shared staff person with the University of Kansas Medical Center and the Department of Population Health. I will hand it off to Christy.
Hi, thank you, Vicki. This is Christy Eichhorn with the Kansas Turnpike Authority.
Okay.
That looks like it might be everyone
Thank you, everyone
online.
Online. All right. For you, those that don't know, I'm Jessica Mortinger. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager for the Lawrence Douglas County Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're doing a quick set of introductions because I wanted to let our guests introduce themselves also before we begin our conversation today. Go ahead, Adam.
Adam Michael, Director of Transit City Balance.
Courtney Shipley. I'm the representative for Lawrence Association and Neighborhoods.
I'm Hillary Carter, and I am the committee or subcommittee lead from the former multimodal transportation committee, but now I'm moving. I've been appointed, thankfully. I'm grateful for this, to the Connected Cities Advisory Board, which will start next month.
Yes. I'm Stephen Mason. I am also with the MPO as a transportation planner.
Dustin Smith. I'm City of Lawrence Traffic Engineering.
Sean Bartain, I'm a project manager with Olson Engineering. We're leading the project on the consultant side.
And Shelby Ferguson, a planner with Olson Studio, assisting Sean with the public engagement portion of this project.
And if you don't mind, I'll allow you to introduce yourselves just so the committee can know you're here.
My name is Chinua Kopa, Professor of Civil Engineering, Director of Asia Sector and Safety. I'm here to learn how to work on this activity that we are working with City of Florence on future and with startup developments.
Hi, my name is Gulshan Khanema. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the National Center for Construction Safety at the University of Kansas. And the reason of my being here is his name.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Rogers. And I do a lot of computational work for the center.
Thank you. Welcome. They reached out to see about the interest from the city perspective in partnering on a project, and I invited them to participate in today's discussion to join, and also we're going to follow up with some additional discussions afterwards. So just so you know, and I'll go ahead and let Sean share our presentation for today.
It works. Like I said, I'm Sean Bartain. I'll be running through the presentation today. Basically, where we are in the project, kind of getting everybody back up to speed. It's been a while since we met with the steering committee. So we had a busy summer with a lot of pop-ups here and in Eudora and Baldwin City. Got a lot of feedback from the public in terms of their experience with the transportation system around them and safety. And so what we're looking at today, we're going to go through We're getting started on a crash dashboard. That's a requirement for this project from Federal Highway for the SS4A funding. Essentially, it allows the public to kind of track progress based on updated crash data. So it'll follow 5 years of crash data and then get updated every 6 months to every year or so with the latest. So that'll help everybody kind of see where progress is being made based on projects and where crashes are happening systemically. We're also going to talk about project and strategy development. So that's kind of another item in terms of where we are in the project. We're going to have some internal workshops at Olson and some external, as well as the public open house coming up here in October to talk about what projects make sense and where, and also what strategies make sense. And then, like Shelby said, she's going to go over the survey highlights. So we'll get over to it here. That help working?
Maybe?
There we go. Okay. So, like I said, we held several pop-ups over the summer throughout June and July, and we had the survey running online throughout the end of July for all 3 communities that we're looking at in this study. And right now we're looking at getting the dashboard set up. So we've got some folks at Olson working with people at the city, some of the GIS professionals here to figure out how to get that set up, and we're getting data in there, and as well as the high injury network. As a reminder, that's based on our analysis, kind of where crashes are happening systemically and specifically where dangerous crashes are happening, so fatal and serious injury crashes. Next. Okay, so to kind of introduce what a dashboard is and talk about its components, we'll also be looking for feedback for anybody that has it from the committee in terms of, if there's anything that pops out at you or that you'd like to see on the dashboard or you think would be helpful to help keep the public informed. So these dashboards are basically a combination of charts, infographics, and mapping to help communicate where crashes are happening and, over a period of time, whether they're increasing or decreasing, what kinds of crashes are increasing or decreasing. And hopefully, as a Vision Zero project, we see that in the downward trajectory from here on out. Next slide. So yeah, the components for a dashboard, like I said, is going to be a mixture, a kind of mixed media visual representation that include crash data, high-risk locations, as well as upcoming and completed safety projects. So we'll be looking 5 years back as well on projects like the one out on 23rd Street to kind of see where recent improvements have been made in the road network, in the bike ped network, and to be able to compare that to where crashes are happening. So our timeline is to have the dashboard draft completed by the end of September and ready for the public by November. We'll have another steering committee in between that time to introduce it to you all and kind of get your feedback on it, as well as the city reviewing it. And this is a good time as well to ask you all about any questions or feedback, items that you'd like to be sure to be included on the dashboard.
You said 5 years. Is it the future 5 years where it'll be updated every 6 months, or is it 5 years of historical data that's going to be displayed?
5 years of historical data.
Okay. And then you said it would be updated every 6 months. Do you know for how long?
So indefinitely at this point. So the requirement from Federal Highway basically just says that the city needs to host needs to provide a platform for the public to be involved at progress made on Vision Zero. A lot of communities are choosing a dashboard like this in order to accomplish that. And there's not necessarily a time horizon.
And who will be responsible for updating it? Do you know?
It could be at the city level. There may be some involvement from a consultant, but it's just kind of depends on how the city wants to manage it.
I assume.
So
with
we
the
begin to
PD.
have conversations with our technical staff who are going to have some of that responsibility. It won't fall all entirely on transportation planners. There's some of our GIS technical staff that are going to be involved in that with different requirements to get that set up. And Sean and his team have met with those staff and are preparing for that
Nice.
in this rollout.
Anybody else? Anybody online? Kind of comments or feedback? All right. Thank y'all. And then, so like I said, the other item that we're focused on right now is project development and strategy development. Project development will be looking at individual locations and whether it'll be a temporary project or a quick build project or a more permanent type of infrastructure. Kind of where those will be located. We've looked at and kind of rated a lot of the different segments and intersections in terms of where crashes are happening. So that'll be a focus. And then we've also kind of parsed through some streetlight data as well as the crash data to see what types of crashes are happening there and in what directions to kind of best align the project type. Like I said, we'll have some internal and external workshops to see what makes the most sense in terms of project implementation as well as strategies. So strategies are going to involve more items along the lines of, maybe a commercial driveway along an arterial section and how we treat that crosswalk if we're seeing a lot of crashes at that location. Kind of more overarching approaches to doing things and less intensive in terms of infrastructure and capital. It may just involve paint or improvements like that. And we'll also be kind of more looking at engineering standards and if we have any updates to those based on what we think will help prevent dangerous accidents, dangerous crashes.
Do you know, sorry, I'm always the one with questions, but will there be time of day when the crash happened in that data or kind of what granular level? I mean, I know the location will be there, but I think that when I had done a quick cursory look of the state's dashboard that the highest number of crashes happen at KU the fall when students come back into session at this particular location and in the dusk hours. But I don't know, again, it's been a while since I looked at it, but it's that time of day seems to be a factor as well.
Right.
I don't know if that'll be part of what you guys can look at or if it's even available data. I'm not sure.
So that data is included, and it's something that we've looked at through this point, as well as, it's got whether the driver was intoxicated, other data to whether there was aggressive driving involved, whether there was speeding involved. It's a little bit different from state to state, but a lot of that is included, and we looked at it from a systemic level.
Cool.
All right, and I'll pass it off to Shelby now to talk about kind of what we've done over the summer in terms of public engagement and plans moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So, as you mentioned, I'm going to go over high level, just some of the overall major takeaways from the survey results, but provided around the room, there is the full public engagement summary, which really details out each question that was asked as part of that survey. It's also located on the Vision Zero website that's located within the city's city's website specifically. It also then includes the full survey, as in terms of more of the raw data, which you can look at more specifically the open-ended response questions and things like that in full detail there on the website. But just for purposes of time and also just looking at it more at that high level, we're going to focus in on just a few of the overall questions. So as mentioned, we did run the survey from throughout the summer period. So it was open from May 29th to July 31st. And in that time period, it was available either online. It was promoted through the city's websites as well as just social media and the website itself. And then specifically, we went out to several, between Sean and I and Olson staff and city staff, NPO staff, we attended several different pop-up events, and so those are detailed out in the summary as well, you see there. But a few of those, just to mention, they were all within Eudora, Baldwin City, or Lawrence. So going to their third Friday markets in Baldwin City, attending the Dive-In movie in Eudora, and then a few items here in Lawrence, which highlighted the Midsummer Nights and the Summerfest. So just various pop-up events throughout those months that allowed us to really get out and promote the survey and ask and really start to just have those conversations with people as well. So not only did we start to get responses, but then we also started to just have more of those one-on-one conversations just regarding safety and just connectivity and where those things are taking place in each of those communities. And so by the end of it, we were able to have 211 responses. And so within that, the breakdown of that really then amounted to 163 of those were from Lawrence or indicated that they live in Lawrence. At the end of the questionnaire, we asked typical demographic questions, and one was specifically asking where people lived. 16 were from Eudora and 3 from Baldwin City, and then there were 2 respondents who indicated they were from somewhere else other than the three cities. So that's just looking at the response level, so 211 responses. From that, the major takeaways really were that the majority of the respondents identified that they ride alone in a car. That's their sole transportation method, was the car, and we'll get into that a little bit more in detail on the next slide. But then really looking at the safety was the highest of importance to respondents, and the distracted driving was their top concern when it came to, we asked what types of safety concerns they had, more specifically, and distracted driving was that top concern. And then we asked them when we started to dive into what type of solutions would you like to start to see in terms of coming from this effort. It was really looking at design and engineering solutions was the top priority identified for alleviating fatalities within these communities. And so again, the next couple slides, we'll just go over some questions. So the first one was, how do you usually get to work or school? Again, the majority of the respondents indicated that they use a car alone. So then really diving into that, because this question allowed people to select more than one mode as their response. And so we started to dive into that and look at it. And of those 173 responses, only 40 of those indicated one or more other methods than the car. So you're looking at that within that 133 respondents chose car only. Of the overall 211 responses. And then 36 of those 211 responses just did not choose car. So they chose either one other option or a variation and combination of bicycle, walking, et cetera, other options here provided. So carpool, bus, et cetera. But again, that's 81.99% indicated that they're using a car alone. Other modes selected, they identified that they're that 6.64% there identified that other was walking, bicycle, or bus as well. So then when we start to look at why they chose that mode of transportation, the top main factor here was that it was out of convenience, is why they chose, the majority of them were choosing car as that top transportation method. Within this, other factors reflected that the preferences, so if they didn't choose convenience alone, we start to really look at this, that this is starting to show preferences and opportunities for us as we start to look at those recommendations that come out of this effort, and really focusing in on what some of those design solutions could be when we're looking at other ways to influence why they choose a method of transportation other than convenience. How do we get these other factors and increase those numbers? And so it's potentially looking at solutions that would start to increase the lack of alternatives or the health benefits, increasing the awareness of how riding or biking and walking to their destinations can help increase those choices instead. So then we start to ask and look into what barriers was preventing people from walking or biking to specific destinations. And this is where 95 respondents indicated that their destination was just too far. So again, it's pointing back to that convenience factor in some ways. And so really starting to look at the correlation between those choices there. And then following very closely behind that was 80 responses or 40% looking at safety concerns, which then quickly was followed behind with 66 respondents indicating lack of bike lanes and sidewalks, which then goes hand in hand with those safety concerns themselves. Other factors that people indicated when they chose other there at 22% just indicated either the weather, being more Midwestern city, weather definitely plays into a factor, in topography, as well as just, again, the convenience and need for a car. And then several indicated physical abilities, whether it was just that they were either disabled, their age, factors such as those. And then there was a handful or so of comments who just said that they lacked motivation to use anything other than a car or to even look into biking or walking. So then we looked at what is barrier-wise preventing individuals to use public transportation. And so what we started to see here is the top two barriers were indicated as inconvenient schedules and long travel times. And we do know that there have been changes to the schedule, that there have been route changes. And so we see this really truly as just an opportunity potentially for additional engagement as those changes do take place. As individuals who may typically not have used public transit, they may not be aware of those changes, and maybe something that has been now put into place would actually benefit them in terms of their schedule. So just having ongoing engagement, I know that the city does that very well, but just continuing to educate on those efforts may increase ridership as well. Other things, as mentioned also, 29% indicated other factors, and when we started to really dive into what they indicated as other, you started to see some responses that truly could have gone up into and increased that percentage for convenience or location and travel times or et cetera, because again, we started to see a majority of those responses were either due to convenience and timing, that their transit's unavailable to them in their location. Several respondents indicated that they live in the country, or that there is not a route near their home at all. And so that was just a factor for them of not choosing it. And then again, looking at reliability. So just that going back into that timing piece for public transit schedules as well. So then the last one I want to highlight is really looking at the safety treatments that we asked. We asked what type of safety treatments would you support within your community? And so this is really where we start to look at how do we start to design pieces, or what is the strategies that Sean started to get at in terms of, how do you take this forward more and make sure that we're implementing things that are really realistic and also logical for each community. And so 75%, so 144 respondents indicated that they highly supported engineering solutions. So engineering solutions included examples as whoop. Sorry about that. Oh, there we are. We're back. Just adding infrastructure, roundabouts, bump outs, pedestrian islands, very specific design solutions that would alleviate any safety concerns. Another factor, really, the next one following behind at 58%, was just either law enforcement or technology tools closely followed the engineering solutions component. And so that really is either in law enforcement specifically in terms of just speeding or running red lights, things specific to that, or even looking at technologies such as cameras and other uses that could really enforce the traffic rules that are in place currently. Within that, there was 13% that included other factors, and again, very similar to other ones. As you started to dive into what individuals indicated, some of them still pointed back to the engineering solutions, but they got very specific in a type of engineering solution that they would support, either if it was a bump out or pedestrian refugees. Some very strong opinions and call for a desire of less roundabouts when it came to those engineer solutions, and then looking at what those solutions may be in terms of engineering or design. There was a support and call for education on them. So how do you start to use a roundabout? We all know that there may be, I hear frequently of diverging diamonds and roundabouts where I live is I hate them. Well, there's an education component to that completely. Once you have a bit more knowledge of how to use those specific things, sometimes they become a little more digestible for individuals. And then the last part of that, in terms of other factors, was just the need and call for increased driving requirements or testing. So more frequent testing, not just getting your license once and testing and then never having to go back, because again, it kind of goes back to that education piece of it too. Our solutions, our driving methods are always changing, and so understanding how to use those methods and improvements is key and important too, that could be done through testing and requirements. So with that, I will start to pass back to Sean, but before that, any questions specifically on the survey results?
I got a question.
Yes.
Why the number of total respondents for each question is different?
So the questions were not required to be answered, so the response rate is going to be different from those if they chose to skip it or not.
And this is not a statistically valid survey, it's a self-selected survey, and so it's people who chose to participate in our work.
I found that the respondent for question 2 is 40, which is the lowest.
Yeah, and it just means people chose not to answer that question.
And I think that second question for the job question on that date. My question is, which provides alternative solutions, choices or to enforcement, engineering, education, and other. But those people who try to use survey may not see an expert in this field. I mean, the safety treatments. My research and teaching focus on to SACON, and actually we have more options rather than with force engineer that should take into account. So, like those team my concern for, so only got the results for question number 8, issues of engineering 75%, right? But in terms of the safety, we have a better solution than engineering, which is prevention through design. So my main concern is those people maybe applied to those questions may not get answered for this. So before we get the 75% result, we can check this out. it does not seven being to E.
And this is the difference between research and I think what we're doing, which is community planning and community engagement. So in research, when you see that, it's like 75%, that's the end all be all. We must be in this space. Here, we're understanding what public opinion and what public sentiment is to help us also understand what there's political palatability for, and also context sensitivity in terms of understanding kind of, I think based on the comments, what level of understanding people have of the different kind of high level concepts that we're giving them. We're not asking them to be experts in telling us which are the best ways for us to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. We're asking them, what do you think are effective ways? Where do you feel like this would be a place you can be? And that's a very big difference I think we experience between research, which is like, we know this method can reduce crashes by a certain percent. We have crash reduction rates and those sorts of things, versus where we're in a political field and we have technical experts who are working with our consultants to understand that, but we also have to understand what there's political context for.
Sounds good. Okay.
I will say, like, I'm just looking at question 8 right now, but, you know, there's like this self-selecting factor here. And when I'm reading the other responses, they're very specific, like the Idaho stop, like Germany's driver's license testing, you know what I mean? Things that like, you know, like are pretty specific. So in many ways, I think like maybe the self-selected respondents have a great deal of knowledge about this stuff too. I mean, I don't know. You know, we don't know necessarily, but I'm just looking at that and like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, and I think that was one of the things that was kind of interesting about some of the pop-ups as well, and having those conversations. You know, I helped staff the pop-up at Summerfest, where we were very lucky to be next to the youth play area. And so we were grabbing parents left and right that may not have otherwise taken that survey if they weren't filling 20 minutes of time while their kids played a game. And so I think that, when you look into some of those really in-depth Idaho stops, things like that, those were probably people that have been following the Vision Zero a little more closely, have opinions that they were wanting to share. Whereas I think, we had some very interesting conversations with people at Summerfest and also at the farmers market, honestly. And just there's a wide variety of different levels of expertise and different areas of focus. I believe one person was had more experience on the law enforcement side, and they were very concerned about impairment and distractions as compared to speed, things like that. So not an active serving person.
And I think that's where it's going to really come into play when we're looking at both kind of where we are in terms of context, where we think we can go in terms of what best practices tell us, and then also what does our crash analysis say? As you started talking about what types of crashes are you having, where are you having them, when are you having them, who's impacted, and those sorts of things, that is going to have to drive your strategy into certain places depending on what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's neat to see this survey data. I mean, it's like, looks like it's really in depth and that there was a lot of thought put into it, and the responses are really, I mean, I think that there's a wide variety of what I'm seeing here too. So I can hear like the Summerfest population may not be so knowledgeable about the sort of deep dive into German driving requirements, but like you get a lot of different responses, which is great. Yep.
Well, and that's the goal, I think, is to kind of understand what is the overarching public sentiment in regards to this topic so we can understand where are we at in the spectrum. And you saw everything from do this one thing to this one thing, and they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. And we have to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I think part of the education component as well is being able to communicate to the public just how big of a difference a roundabout can make an intersection for deadly crashes. There was definitely, a disconnect between people saying that safety was their most important concern, and then a couple comments about, not wanting roundabouts. So there may be a disconnect there between what they want and knowledge about what can help improve that.
Yeah.
I also had a question. When you said engineering versus prevention through design, what did you mean by the difference between those two? Because I kind of see those as A similar approach.
Engineering means we put our signage, put our handrail, but prevention so resides inside our hazards. So hazards are not there, and we can achieve that goal from the design. So far, for example, the roundabout, if we only have one lane or a roundabout, we aim at not excellent. But have two lanes around for the roundabout to reduce accident. That's one of the examples of prevention design. And another example is, for example, if we install the pipe system, if we have a valve in a high position, then in the future, in the maintenance phase, the maintenance workers need to use the data to approach the valve. And from the prevention through design perspective, we can lower the position of the valves. So in the future, the workers, they don't need a ladder to approach the valve. So it is the basic idea of prevention through design. Then the hazard won't be there anymore. And I think prevention through design is a game changer. And this is one of our research studies.
Gotcha.
We also have multiple examples about transportation safety. Another example is if we increase the height of the pavement, we can increase the temperature of the pavement, and then don't have snow or ice on the pavement. Therefore, we can reduce the chance of accident into the snow. We have several prevention so design ideas from different countries.
Gotcha. And I think there's overlap there too between engineering as a solution. I think that involves some prevention through design too. When we look at kind of systemically where crashes are happening, some of those solutions to that may be design changes that provide traffic calming, that make pedestrians more visible. So I think there's some overlap there between when they say they want an engineering solution. I think some of that involves prevention through design.
In terms of safety, we emphasize the Swiss cheese model, which is we need to provide multiple layer of connection. So we need to protect those users using prevention through design, using engineering, using education, using enforcement. We need all layers of protection, and we need to design multiple layers according to the environment and its situation. And it does not mean we do having an area to not in the shiny evidence. And what the highest method is prevention inside. If the hazard is not there, actually, we can dramatically reduce the hazard. Yes,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think all those things are the goals of Vision Zero. It's all of those factors combined.
So just kind of as a recap through the items I went through and Shelby did, timeline for the crash dashboard, we're looking at having a draft by September and kind of review period, and then sometime in November having that ready to launch for the public. And then for project and strategy development, primarily through September and October as well, in terms of having some internal workshops and the public open house we have coming up. And then ongoing community engagement and feedback. A lot of that has already come through the survey, but like I said, we have another open house, so that'll continue kind of that engagement and feedback that we get through the early drafts of project suggestions and strategy suggestions. And then, so it was the fall open house plan is to look at those survey findings like we did here. We'll have a refined high injury network. Again, that's where crashes are occurring, deadly crashes are occurring on a frequent basis. And then introducing the proposed projects and strategies. I think that's... Yeah, so just as a wrap up, kind of if there's any other feedback from the committee, any items we're missing or should focus on, or anything like that.
And again, we've printed the summary, but both the summary and the full realm of comments is available on the Vision Zero community engagement page. So if you want to go look at those in more detail, they are posted.
Looks like it was awesome. You guys did great this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I feel like 200 was a good number
Yeah.
for the other things we've done.
Surprisingly, I think, people are surveyed out. I
was a little worried about that.
I really have started to feel like that when we're doing this kind of engagement. So I think that's been challenging. I mean, we spent lots and lots of hours standing at hot events, and to get someone's intention about something of safety. Unless sometimes I think if they have a very specific thing, it's more challenging to get someone's attention about something.
I think another factor that I saw quite a bit, because we did pop-ups at the library as well, and there were quite a few times that it was interesting, having to convince people that this is about cars and traffic as well. We would have people walk by, like, I don't ride a bike, I'm not interested. And we would luckily be able to have some of those conversations, but it does make me kind of wonder what kind of other gaps there are, and how we keep promoting that for our next open house, drawing more people in. And I think that being out in public allowed us to have those conversations a little more than the social media posts. But that was certainly an interesting factor to me, is the number of people that are still viewing overall safety on the roads as not related to their specific form of transportation.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's not thinking about like cars and safety, right?
Right. Which, in the responses that we received, people were concerned about distracted driving and aggressive driving and other drivers on the road.
Yeah.
And then things kind of get distracted sometimes.
I suppose I'm hopeful to see, or interested to see, in project development or strategy development, we talk about like the archetypes of the problem, commercial entrance, conflicts in that area. With 5 years of crash data, we've definitely done some implementation of things for safety, things like roundabouts or otherwise. Then I hope we spot some impacts that can create a more tangible through line for the average person.
Right.
This many crashes in this area 5 years ago. This treatment was done, our education, our enforcement was done, and now we're at this number. I think that would help get it connected in their brain a little more. Hopeful.
Yeah, so we've had a conversation about what are those projects, like Wakarusa roundabouts. There's the highway safety improvement projects that have happened for the geometric changes at Iowa and Clinton Parkway 23rd and Iowa and 6th Street, Tennessee and 6th, turn lanes, Mass Street, lane reduction with green and buffered bike lane on one side, the 23rd Street reconstruction, which included access management and lane narrowing and development of shared use path. So I think those are that's my short list of kind of examples right off the top where I can think about larger capital projects where we have made design decisions that have impact that should, we believe, right, based on best practices, impact safety. And we'll be starting to look at some of those kind of locations, try to identify all those timelines of that, so we can say, has the rates to have the crashes changed before or after these things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I don't know if I've seen that on dashboards, but it may be an interesting thing to look at where you could highlight a certain intersection or project to say, to show how many serious accidents have decreased, year over year, and have kind of a rolling series of projects that highlight that decrease versus just having the overall, I hope, like you said, help the public make that connection between the improvement and safety increases.
I'm thinking too about the pedestrian refuge islands next to Lawrence High and Billy Mills. I mean, I don't know when those were built in, but I see a lot of, students traffic, those areas.
Both of those, I think, were sometime in the last 10 years.
Were there?
Yeah.
Well, there's the brand new rapid flashing beacon there on Louisiana as well. Should hopefully assist with those Billy Mills crossings.
Yeah.
And what's the timeline for the Mass project? That one's coming up, right? Yeah, or is that not for a couple years?
Yeah, the Massachusetts Street Lane reconfiguration is waiting on an announcement to find out about transportation alternatives grant funding.
Okay,
Before a final design scope can be determined.
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so
But
great. I appreciate everybody's involvement, and I think that kind of wraps us up for today. Unless anybody has anything else.
I do have one off-topic announcement. Do you have our neighborhood traffic management signs with us here today? If anyone
nice.
would like some,
Yeah.
give them to your neighborhoods, to your friends, and help encourage safe walking, biking, and driving as we keep working on this project.
Cool.
Stickers as well if you need them.
Yeah. Yeah. Another off-topic announcement, if you want to talk about some other safety work we're doing about Lantern Walk too,
Oh, yes.
that would be a good opportunity.
We set a date for Lawrence's first Lantern Walk event. We will be holding that on October 9th. It's a Wednesday evening, starting at 6:30. Lantern Walks were originally started in Springfield, Missouri. They have quite a few pedestrian-related collisions every year, and started a program to try and combat that, bring attention to the safety of pedestrians and safe crossings. And so we're unveiling the first one here in Lawrence. Going to work with the Sunset Hill Elementary, and neighborhood is helping us promote as well. So hopefully start that there, but it's the kind of event that we're hoping will increase across Lawrence, have neighborhoods kind of step up to host their own events in October, which is Pedestrian Safety Month. So try and promote that. So we'll have lantern making if you want to join us that night or make one in advance, and we'll walk through the neighborhood with some activities and games and things like that.
What day did you say that was?
October 9th. It's a Wednesday evening, and it does actually correlate as well with Walk to School Day. Will be that same day.
Thanks.
So pedestrian heavy that day.
Nice.
Right. Right. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Cool.
Good job.
Good job.
This week.
Yes. Yes. Oop. The parents there.
And thank you, everybody online.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Can you do that? Good time. Cool. Adam, did you get my message? Did it make sense to you? Okay.
Sleuth.